This is instructions for how to make a simple clinometer for use in geometry practicum. First off, you're going to need some equipment. You're going to need some tape, you're going to need a protractor, a drinking straw, some thread, some string, and then something to be a weight. What could be a weight? Well, before I've used some nuts. That one's not really heavy enough. You could use an eraser. This is a little glass manatee I got at some point. I could tie something on there really good. That'd work. There's a rock my dog got out of the yard. Isn't that an interesting rock? Okay. And I saw this laying around the house. Some nail clippers. I could tie something on there real easy. So you need something to weight down the string a little bit that's easy to tie onto. That's all you need. It doesn't matter what it's going to be. Okay. So let's start with the protractor. Okay, the protractor, if you've got a choice of big or small, big is better because it'll give you a little bit more accurate measurement. So we'll have here, it's better if it's got a hole in it, and if the hole is right at the 0 line. See, here's 0 on the left, measuring from the left, 0 on the right, measuring from the right, and that hole right there in the middle is on the 0 line. That'll make a good, accurate measure, at least with our equipment accurate. Okay, so if you don't have a hole, after you've seen this, you might be able to tell what the criteria are so that you can rig what you have to work for you. So I'm going to take my string, put it in the hole. If I can get it to go in there. Oh, it went. But it didn't go. I'll try that again at the other end. Okay, I'll put the string in the hole. A little more carefully this time. When we use it, it's going to be hanging down, kind of upside down-ish. This will be the orientation. You're going to want to tie a knot to hold the string. Do not have it cinch up close to this plastic here if you're doing like me. Here, it needs to hang freely. So a slip knot will not do it for you because that'll go back down where it doesn't need to be. I'm tying a knot here in the middle of it. Okay. Do something like that. Have it so it'll hang freely. You're going to want it to move back and forth in this range easily without getting caught and making it an inaccurate measurement. It's also okay to go ahead and make the knot way down here so that it's below all of it and then it can swing all around freely. Either way is fine. That's particular, say for example, if you have a protractor that is solid, it'd be okay to just make the knot down here, and that would work just fine. So we're going to be measuring the degrees, so this will do from 27, okay, like that. Everybody see how it's going to, yeah, do you see how it's going to work? Okay, I hope. All right. Okay, so now we need to have a sight. We're going to look, and we're going to use a drinking straw for that. Technically, I suppose having the longer straw, as long as you can get it, would make it a little bit more accurate, but I recommend that you don't use the whole straw. The reason I say that is when I've done this and the straw has been kind of long, I've stuck it in my eye, and that's no fun. That's not cool, so don't do that. I recommend that what you do is cut your straw at the length of your protractor. So I'm going to make mine here right at 6 inches. Okay? So that'll work just fine. We're going to line it up on the 0 line. Notice when I do that, I'm pushing down on the string. So I'm a little bit concerned that when I push down on the string like that I might make a mess and I might bind it. This may be going a little bit more than's needed, but I am going to go ahead and make a little notch in my straw. I'll show you how I'm going to do it right at the middle where the string is, just so I don't crimp the string style. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to cut a little notch. Don't cut all the way because the straw won't work. Just a little notch. Make sure the string hangs freely, which on yours it might anyway, so you might not need to do this. Okay. So now I'll line up I'll have my little notch there. That won't affect the functioning. Then I want my straw to be centered on my 0 lines. I'll turn the notch toward the string. And yeah, did you see my notch? Okay, see how I made a little notch there? Okay. You might check it out. You might not need to make one of those, but I just did that to make sure it didn't impede the string hanging freely. So I'll put the notch toward the string at the 0. And then you can see right there, I want to line it up so that the 0 line is right in the middle of the straw. So I'll do that to the best that I can, and then I'm going to tape it. Okay. So, the 0, if you made a notch, make the notch towards the string, and then line up so that the 0 marking is in the middle of the straw. Okay. Once you've done that, we'll tape it down to hold it in place. And once you tape, snug it up against the straw good to keep it right in the middle. We'll do that on both ends. So again, lining up so that the 0 line is in the middle of the straw, and taping. Snug the tape down good so it'll work. Mine's a little too big. Okay. So now when we try it out, I see that my string is moving freely, which is good. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now look at the string. Look at the string. It's all crooked. I can't tell where it's supposed to be. I need to have it weighted down so that I can tell what the angle measurement is. So I need to have one of my weights. I don't know, this little manatee, that would work really good. I don't know if I want to chance my manatee. It's made out of glass. I'm going to try this. I saw this in the house today. It's got a pretty good weight. Just some nail clippers, and it's got a place I can tie it on. So whatever your weight is, it needs to be pretty easy to tie it on so it doesn't drop off, and it needs to have some weight to it. So I'm going to use this because it looks like it'll be easy to do. So I'll stick it in here and tie it. And just dangling somewhere below so that you'll be able to read it well, and go ahead and tie it on. And again, the weight can just be anything that's easy to tie on so it'll stay, and enough weight to do it. There we go. That's going to work. Now I'll be able to read my measure here. Okay. So again, a clinometer is for the purpose of measuring angles. We'll do it by looking through the straw and then checking the straw and checking the measurement. I'll do that on another video where I'm showing you how to use it. I wanted to mention a similar device that's very much needed in the world, and that is a sextant. A sextant is kind of like a clinometer, very similar. It has a protractor, this portion down here, and then a sight. There's a telescope. Now, sextants measure from a different perspective, but kind of do a very similar thing. Some of these are mirrors, and so that you can get the right thing. But the sextant, and here's a picture of a guy using a sextant, which will use it kind of similarly. So here's a guy using a sextant. Okay. The purpose of a sextant is for celestial navigation. Back in the days, for most of human history, people who went out in ships would stay close to the coast, because once you get away from the coast, you can't tell where you are. You get lost really easily. So, people who lived on islands the English, the British islands, came up, they wanted to go on boats particularly, and they came up with some ways to find out where they were even when they couldn't see the land. And that's using celestial navigation. You know that every night you can see the stars. If you're a place that you can see the stars, you can see the stars, and they appear to be in slightly different places every night. You notice that the sun rises and you can tell the angle of it. If you can just tell the angle and know relative to a star chart how you're placed, then that will tell you where in the ocean you are. To be able to do that, the way that the British came up with is you need a particular time at 1:27 a.m. on March the 12th. The Pleiades is 14 degrees above the horizon. That doesn't sound like enough, but anyway, just for an example, just making it up. Okay, so and you know that if that's the case, along with some other criteria, you can say where you are on the planet. That takes very detailed star charts, which the British made, and it takes the time of day or night that is the reference. And because they didn't want to make a chart for every different one, they set a standard time. And the time that they set to be the standard time for all the British mariners was the time in Greenwich, England, which is at London, at the Royal Observatory. That is 0 hours, so midnight. Okay. And all British ships carried a clock that kept that time so they could use their star chart, so they didn't have to have a different star chart every place they were, that the set that they made would work everywhere using that time. That became the standard time. As we moved into more modern times, we still use that as the reference. It's Greenwich Mean Time. If you see like on your calendars that you make on your electronic devices, it might say like GMT plus 6. Well, that's Houston. That's what it's a reference to. It's a reference to Greenwich, England, where all of this was thought up in a nice systematic form. Okay. By the way, mariners who are on the high seas are still today required to have a sextant and some star charts. But you're saying, oh, but we've got GPS. Yeah, we do. But you know what? The power goes off sometimes, and there are problems. And who wants to be out in the middle of the ocean without a clue of where you are or the ability to contact anyone? So, yeah, they are still required to have it and to have some knowledge of how to do it. So this exercise that you'll be doing will help you know how that works.